Greetings and welcome to our discussion of the Learnza method, which is a focus on a phenomenological study that talks about the essence and impact of motivational coaching on the lived experience of students at Urban Tutoring Academy. Throughout this video, we will talk about specific things. First, the research perspectives, getting a clear, concise idea of what the researcher, as the primary investigator, has in mind for their study. Second, we will delve deep into our research questions and hypothesis statement. We will brush up on our understanding of the actual problem and focus on a specific purpose statement that will guide us in our study. After that, we will discuss the rationale of the study based on the literature and what our literature review has said about our specific problem. We'll focus on the framework of the power load margin theory based on Howard McCluskey's specific study on what power and load mean in this sense. And we will conclude with references and future readings for the future component of our study. All right, so let's get started and talk about the actual perspectives of the researcher. So this study sets a very specific inclusion criteria of students that are enrolled in an urban tutoring academy out in Plano, Texas. As the primary investigator and as the personal owner and founder of the company, I, the researcher, acknowledge that I have personal investments in this study. My bias and assumptions may influence the study because I'm the human instrument who's analyzing the data, and I'm the founder of the life coaching, tutoring, and mentoring company. Regardless of this, the study has so much value because the experiences of the students, tutoring, coaching, and mentoring, throughout this process is very specifically founded in the understanding that they have a purpose. And our purpose is to analyze that purpose along with their assumptions and find the essence of their lived experiences in this tutoring environment. The problem statement and the purpose statement of this study focuses on student burnout and how it's a significant problem impacting high school students' ability to enroll in the college of their choice. There are large numbers of students that are scoring low or inadequately failing to perform to their demand and level because of stress, anxiety, and burnout that is induced by this high-stakes testing environment. This shows that there's a prevalence and severity of burnout. There is even statistical data and studies that have shown that 76% of students have high anxiety levels in a standardized testing environment. This increasingly complex issue, focused around an increasingly complex testing environment, renders these students almost immobile to the stress and burnout they experience. Thus, throughout my understanding, there's a problem that has been identified, and that is that there's gaps in the literature regarding how students are experiencing a motivational coaching environment and how its effect on their perception of stress, anxiety, and burnout. The methodology of this study is very much focused on the research design. So the research design of this study is a qualitative transcendental phenomenological study looking at the essence of the student's experiences, told in a narrative format. The site selection is high-performing students at Learnza LLC, a life coaching, tutoring, and mentoring company located here in Plano, Texas. Again, the participants in the study will be students ages 17 to 18 who are enrolled at Learnza and who are getting specific help with high-stakes testing, and life coaching. These are students that have been enrolled for a year or longer. The data collection will include semi-structured interviews conducted over the period of 1 hour. Students will come specifically on a Saturday for the times in the afternoon, and they will have their interview. It will be a 1 hour interview with 15 minutes preliminary questions, 15-minute recap at the end, and a structured set of essence, narrative, semi-structured questions. The data analysis phase will take these interviews that are recorded and we will analyze them through the concrete research process, looking for reliability and validity. Again, we will be using several statistical softwares to take these qualitative studies and make it more productive, and we will use specific determining coding and schemes to make sure that this is a valid and specifically viable study to promote the essence of replication, cross-examination, and help promote life coaching as a specific important part of the literature. So now that we've talked about our specific researcher perspectives, we've delved into the problem and purpose statement. We have an understanding through the research question and hypothesis statement. Again, we've gone over our methodology of research design, site selection, participant sampling, data collection, data analysis, and our ethical consideration phase. Let's now focus on the rationale for this study. Again, we'll be using the power load margin framework. It shapes our questions to review to understand the perceived impact of motivational coaching on students, to guide and explain and understand their thoughts and feelings and emotion. Again, this is done in semi-structured interviews, so we will know specifically that the students at Learnza are experiencing an impactful nature of coaching and mentoring. This impact of coaching or the mentor's influence will explain and help delegate how the students can balance power and how they can gain control of their individual lives. Furthermore, understanding the students' shared experiences regarding the phenomenon will help pick and help us choose the purpose of the power load margin theory as a practical phenomenological approach. There's been something floating around, and that's this idea of the power load margin theory. So let's delve a little bit into our theoretical framework that guides our phenomenological study. So according to Howard McCluskey, he has a theory developed in 1963 and then retooled and reworked in the 1970s. Again, Howard McCluskey was a gerontologist, just like myself, who specialized in lifelong learning, aging, and development. So as a fellow gerontologist, I've identified with Howard McCluskey's theory because the power load margin, again, the key factor of adult life is the load that the adult carries. It's the load that we call the burden. The power that is available to him or her or they helps us carry the load. Again, surplus power helps provide margin or kind of a little bit of a cushion that helps us balance the load. But this idea of margin, we want to help students increase their margin. We want them to have more surplus load. So thus the power load margin theory guides our study because it is so impactful in helping us teach the foundational values of what motivational coaching is and how it can help guide what we're trying to see in these semi-structured interviews on the essence of the student's experience. Finally, to wrap up in our conclusion section, we're going to talk about what has helped us present this specific discussion. From the foundational values of Cresswell and Plano Clark, qualitative inquiry, and our current textbooks that we're reading for the class, to Hemenstra's 1981 contribution of Howard McCluskey's synthesis on the discipline of educational gerontology and the focus of educational coaching, to Learnza, www.learnza.com, my website that specifically talks about our methodology in detail, and again to Howard McCluskey's theory, all the wonderful resources from Miller and Rolnack to Sinestra and her colleagues, really delving on the importance of guiding and adding to the literature all the important things that we're trying to study. Thank you again for partaking in this amazing experience to help bring awareness of the foundational values and the importance of what we're trying to gauge. Again, this study is a transcendental narrative, the impact of motivational coaching on the lived experience of students at an urban tutoring academy. The results of this study, known as the Learnza method, will help fuel the importance of motivational coaching and the values it can bring in society to help guide and help change future generations for the better. Thank you, and looking forward to connecting with everybody. Sic 'em Bears.